Hi everyone, in today's video we're talking about two very important questions. Is immigration still open, and can I file my case? So let's get started. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Michael Ashoori and I'm a US immigration lawyer based in Los Angeles, California. At our firm we work with clients from all 50 states. We actually represent clients worldwide. Now, in light of everything that's going on with COVID-19, we're putting out a lot of immigration content to keep our clients updated. So the best way to stay in touch with our content is to subscribe to our YouTube channel. So if you haven't done so yet, go ahead and subscribe. Also, if at any point during this video you have any questions, go ahead and put them in the comments below. I review the comments regularly and I'd be happy to get back to you. Now that we've had that quick intro, let's get started. So what we're going to talk about today is answering the question, is immigration still open, and can I still file my case? And the reason why we're going to talk about that is that I've been getting a lot of questions about this exact matter. And it's because since the start of coronavirus, there has been so much confusion about everything that's going on with immigration, and there's a lot of misinformation. Many people incorrectly believe that all of immigration is closed, and the reality is, and as I'm going to show you, it simply is not the case. So what I'd like to first do is explain the different government agencies that handle immigration and kind of give you an update on what their status is. So let's start off by talking about USCIS. USCIS is the United States Citizenship and Immigration Services. They are the department that process non-immigrant and immigrant petitions. Now, I want to mention to you that USCIS is still open and is still processing applications. USCIS has temporarily canceled in-person interviews. However, USCIS is set to resume these services on June 4th. So it's important to know that USCIS is still open and continuing to process applications and petitions. However, they're not doing in-person interviews. Now that we've talked about USCIS, let's talk about the consulates and the embassies. The consulates and the embassies are still open for certain services. However, they're currently not doing routine visa interviews. There are some exceptions to this, but for the most part, they're currently not doing routine visa interviews to slow the spread of COVID-19. Now, I'd also like to mention that some consulates have already begun the process of reopening to begin the process of handling routine visa interviews again. So that's important to note. So now that we've basically talked about USCIS and we've talked about the consulates and the embassies. I want to talk about one more thing that's affecting immigration right now, and it's President Trump's executive order. So as many of you know, President Trump signed an executive order suspending immigration. Now, based on this executive order, certain people cannot be issued an immigrant visa. It's important to know that the scope of President Trump's immigration suspension is very limited. For example, it only applies to people that are outside of the United States seeking an immigrant visa. And also, there are many carve-outs and exceptions to President Trump's executive order. So, for example, the spouse of a U.S. citizen can still apply for an immigrant visa, and EB-5 investors can still apply for an immigrant visa. And there's multiple different classifications of people who are not impacted by President Trump's executive order. So now that we've laid the groundwork, we've talked about USCIS still being open. We've talked about the consulates and the embassies, and we've talked about President Trump's executive order. We're going to answer the very important question about how does this affect me? So if you're lawfully present in the United States, there's many things that you can still do. You can still apply for a change of status, you can still apply for an extension of status, or you could still apply for an adjustment of status. And here's why. USCIS continues to process applications and petitions, as we mentioned. President Trump's executive order does not apply to people lawfully present in the US. And lastly, it is very likely that in-person interviews with USCIS will resume fairly soon. So if you're seeking out immigration services and you're in the United States, the vast majority of services that you'd be looking to do are still open. So now, again, this applies to people that are in the United States. Now, if you're outside of the United States, there's additional factors to consider. So what I'd like to do is kind of take you through the timeline of applying for a visa, just to kind of give you an example of the different steps that need to take place so that you can see the process involved and how everything that's going on with coronavirus can potentially affect you. So again, let's discuss the process of applying for a visa. Okay, when you're going out to apply for a visa, whether it be an immigrant visa or a non-immigrant visa, the first step is to gather the documentation, to prepare the documentation for your case. That takes a certain amount of time. Once you've gathered and prepared your documentation, step 2 is that in most cases, you must file your case with USCIS. Once you file your case with USCIS, step 3 is to wait for USCIS to review, process your application, and respond to your case. This can take several months, okay? So that's step 3. Once you've done that, once USCIS responds to your case, the next step is to apply for the visa. So here, we simplified the process to show you this in 4 steps, right? Again, to recap, step 1 is to gather and prepare the documentation. Step 2 is to file your case with USCIS. Step 3 is to wait for USCIS to respond. And step 4 is to apply for the visa. Now, taking all the information that we talked about in this video, let's analyze this in terms of what's open and what's closed. Steps 1 through 3 can be done right now, even with everything that's going on with COVID-19. You can still gather and prepare your documentation. You can still file your case with USCIS, and you can still, of course, wait for USCIS to process your application and respond to your application. Step 4, applying for the visa, will depend on when the consulates will reopen for visa appointments, and it will depend on whether you are subject to the president's immigration suspension, if it's still in effect at the time that you're applying for your immigrant visa. So as you can see, a lot of the steps, even if you're outside of the United States and you're seeking a visa, for example, there are still many steps that you can be taking to move your case forward, even in light of everything that's going on with coronavirus and even in light of everything that's going on with COVID-19 and the changes to immigration. So, I hope this clarifies a lot of stuff for you. For those of you that think, I have to keep everything on hold right now, all of immigration is closed. It seems like a lot of people have that misinformation. So if you know anybody that has this misinformation and they think that everything with immigration is closed, go ahead and brighten up their day and share this video with them. Again, if you guys have any questions, drop them in the comments below. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Remember to subscribe to our channel. We're regularly putting out immigration content. Again, thank you guys so much for tuning in, and I will see you on the next video.